I didn't exactly think that we would start this conversation about the book with this insight, but you mentioned getting to know Sam Bankman-Fried and your conversations, SBF, the how do I even describe SBF to somebody who didn't follow that whole crypto collapse? Because I don't want to overemphasize or call him a con artist. There's still some debate over the whole thing, but you mentioned encountering 3 different personalities of his, and I thought that was very insightful. And you also mentioned that I don't think he has multiple personality disorder. In a weird way, this very odd, disreputable guy, just from your description, was making me think about how everybody kind of has multiple personality disorder and is unreconciled and is contextually different with people. This is a bit of a ramble, but I remember I saw a judge sentencing a guy who'd done something terrible, and she was bringing up how he had been this charming, charismatic guy in the community with all these friends. And she was positing that he had done this in order to curry favor and obscure the terrible thing he was doing. And I remember talking about it with my wife because she had known somebody who was very abusive, but very charismatic with tons of friends. And we both concluded, I don't think he was doing the charismatic, fun guy stuff as a ruse. I think he was just that guy in that context with his work buddies.
Yep.
And he was this other guy in this other context. And I just thought it was so insightful. And I loved everything about SBF and going down that rabbit hole that was just not assuming too much and just trying to unpack and unravel what the hell happened here when this guy went up against this speculative bubble that he was powering.
I mean, look, I think he was a con artist, but one advantage of a book is that you have opportunities to paint a nuanced portrait of people where you'll talk to the subject. I talked to Sam, 5 or 6 times, where you talk to other people about them. And then you can read third party source material, court transcripts, for example, in his case. And you try to paint a nuanced portrait because successful people are complicated people. They're deeply weird people, especially the people that are at the tail end of the bell curve where, Elon Musk is the richest person in the history of humanity out of whatever, 50 billion people that have ever lived or something. By definition, he's got to be really weird, right? He's got to be pretty smart and he's got to be pretty lucky, but he's got to have some freakish characteristics that put him way out there on the outlier, because the high variance skill sets are what is rewarded in Silicon Valley and other parts of the river. And so, I think that extends a little bit.
I just want to pause you right there. Sorry to do that, but can you just quickly, because it's so anchoring to your book, can you explain the metaphor that you just referred to with the river and the village?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes. That's my fault for not setting you up.
I'm a big geography kind of visual learner guy. So I make kind of maps in my head. So the river is a metaphorical place that consists of these people who are very competitive risk takers. So it kind of starts out in the world of poker that you can go upstream into Wall Street and Silicon Valley, or downstream into crypto and various kinds of degenerate, day trading and meme stocks and things like that. Or all the way upstream into the more intellectual foundations of it for things like effective altruism that might be a little too far upstream. But, those are people trying to calculate the expected value of what is a dog's life worth relative to a human life, or how do we most effectively give to charity, or how do we minimize the risk of nuclear war, etc. I began to detect a lot of commonalities in the people in these different fields. I mean, it started out in poker, literally the first thing I did. First flight I took post-pandemic is I flew to the Hard Rock Seminole Casino in Florida, which is a amazing shit show as a casino in Florida, as you expect it would be. And there are record numbers of people after being cooped up for a year playing this World Poker Tour event. I wound up cashing for some small amount of money, but I'm like, these are my people, man. Not the locked up in COVID people. These are my people who are, they can't wait to get back to Florida and play poker in awkward conditions. They're like glass dividers, and people are supposed to be wearing masks. Some are and some aren't. It's very constrained in some ways, but there was something there of a certain type of person who crosses being extremely analytical with extremely competitive. And that personality type in a world that's kind of determined more and more by algorithms and kind of the quants have won, the people on the far right tail of the success curve and the people that on the far left tail, like SBF, are going to have this risk-taking gene. I say gene somewhat euphemistically, but I do think that there's something innate in people, that some people have a desire to like press the button, touch the third rail, gamble, etc., take risks. There seems to be something innate in people that drives that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think that competitiveness is often innate. And Steve Kerr, I remember interviewing him about how he would just throw these horrible tantrums as a little leaguer that embarrassed his parents. His parents were these professors, these intellectuals. They didn't really care much about sports, and they weren't telling him, look, you better win, like many little league dads do, and put this pressure on him. But it was just in him to be psychotically competitive. I do think that it's often fairly innate. It's often intrinsic.